Good evening. I'm Rich Lee, co-editor of Tap Into Greater Olean and executive director of the Jane Doley Institute. Polls closed in the Greater Olean area just about an hour ago, and we're going to have some initial results, give you a rundown of what offices were up for election today and what we know about the results so far. I'm joined by two Tap Into Greater Olean reporters, Cameron Hurst and Lane Dowdell. So I'm going to start out with Cam because Cam has been covering pretty closely what is the biggest race in our area today, which is the 57th District State Senate race. We had a debate right here in the studio a little over a week ago. Cam, what are you seeing so far in that race?
Well, certainly this is a special election. Ideally, the winner of this will end up running a year from now. Right now, it's looking like this seat, which has been predominantly Republican for the last 2 decades, almost 3 decades, will end up being Republican once again. George Borrello is holding a very significant lead over Austin Morgan, with 2 counties officially in, still a lot of districts out. George Borrello has a 15,384 votes in Chautauqua County to Austin Morgan's 6,623. That's with 23 districts not in yet. And in Livingston County, these are only 2 of the 4 counties that this 57th district maintains. Borrello holds a 1,182 vote to 592 vote lead over Austin Morgan. There was a lot of wondering if voters were going to be looking for a young rural Democrat to join the majority. In this case, it was not the case. It's looking like Borrello is going to most likely cruise to a victory. I'm hearing from his camp that Allegheny County, though not up officially, is going to come in very heavily for him as well. Still waiting on Cattaraugus County, but it looks like it's going to be a good night for the Borrello campaign. Okay, and that's not surprising given the demographics of the district. Now, as you mentioned, because they're running for the Kathy Young's unexpired term, there's going to be another election next year, and right. We had talked about Austin Morgan being a new candidate. What type of showing do you think he needs to make tonight to be considered a viable candidate a year from now? Well, in looking in past results, the closest to really approach Kathy Young was about a 20%, 25% share of the voting base. Probably what would help him moving forward if he chooses to run a year from now would end up a showing around that would be very good. A showing better than that would be even better. So if he wants the chance, if he wants to go forth and do this, one more time next year, that would very well be the case, and hopefully, he could get more votes a year from now. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Still a lot of votes to come in. Thanks. And I'm going to switch over to Lane. Lane, you've been following the local races right here in Olean, and I know you did an advanced story on Ward 4 race. Can you just tell us what's going on there?
So the incumbent Kevin Doherty, as of right now, has 3 challengers, and it's very early in the results, but I know that he was a very controversial figure this year. There was a lot of stuff that people weren't really happy with that he was working on. His 3 challengers, so he faced Paul, or Pab Sungenis, who ran on the Democratic, Libertarian, and Working Family lines. He's a broadcaster who works in Bradford, and he's worked on a number of campaigns in his life. And this is actually his 2nd attempt at the alderman position in Ward 4. And something that he wants to work on if elected is plumbing, parks, improving the parks, and data infrastructure. He's also facing James Q. Golnack, who's running on the Common Sense for Change party line. And he's retired, but I think he's appealing to voters because he has 40 years of experience as a government official. Some of the things that he wanted to focus on if elected was unpaid taxes and water bills. And then finally, he's facing Evelyn Cruz, who's running on the alternate party line. She moved here from New York City about 3 years ago, and she worked as a teacher at New Hope Christian School in Olean. And something that she wanted to work on was creating more jobs and improving the quality of life in Olean.
Okay, so you have 3 people challenging Doherty for the one council seat there. You think Doherty's controversial nature brought out more opponents?
I definitely think that area wasn't happy with what Doherty was doing, and I know some of the candidates actually had people in the community approach them and ask them to run for this position.
Okay, good. And as you said, very early, so we don't have the results yet. But I think you do have the results, or at least unofficial results, from one of the other ward races. Which one is that?
So reporter Mike Hogan actually has some unofficial results. So Jason Panis apparently won that alderman position. He ran on the Republican, Conservative, and Independence party lines. He said he was running because he lives in Olean and he actually owns a business there, JP Industrial Services. So he said that if he wins, he wants to treat this job as a duty to his fellow citizens, and he wants to make unbiased decisions. He doesn't really want a career in politics per se, but he wants to make unbiased decisions for the community. And he faced off against Tracelyn Husselstein. So she ran on the Democratic and Working Families Party line, and she works as a cosmetologist in Ellicottville, and she helped out with the Cattaraugus Pride Coalition. And then he also faced off Kevin Bartholomew, who ran on the Libertarian Party line, and he had experience in several professional fields. He's run several times before, and yeah, he said that if he were elected, he would want to make decisions that benefit the citizens there.
Okay, great. And of course, yeah, those results are unofficial, but it does look like Jason Panis won the Ward 2 race. We have still waiting on the other Olean races. There's 2 other contests, one in Ward 6, one in Ward 7. In Ward 6, Nate Smith is running on the Republican, Conservative and Independence lines against Peyton Kunzelman, who's running on the Democratic and Working Party lines. And in Ward 7, the race is between the Democrat David Anastasia and the Republican Reed McElfresh. So we'll keep an eye on that. We do have some unofficial results from some of the other areas. In Hinsdale, an election for Highway Superintendent Theodore Amashko, the incumbent who ran as a Republican and with the Conservative Party backing, has won that. He received 250 votes to Daniel Zawatsky, the Democrat, who finished with 161. Again, still unofficial results, but pretty convincing numbers. As far as the council goes, the 2 Republicans were elected. That's Joseph Knoll, who was an incumbent, and Gerald Martin, who was a newcomer. They defeated Lori Clovis. Knoll had 290 votes, Martin had 272, and Clovis finished with 104. So we'll keep an eye. The results are starting to trickle in now, but we're getting a sense of what's going on. I'm going to go back to Cameron Hurst. Cam, you I think have some of the at least partial results from Allegheny, don't you?
I do. So looking like in Allegheny, James C. Hitchcock will become the new town supervisor. These are partial results from
a couple of wards, I
from
believe.
3, 5, and 6 in the town of Allegheny. James C. Hitchcock has 205 votes to Darla B. Busson's 81. For the council race, it looks like Craig J. McGuire and Andrew Cooper are leading in that with 188 votes and 180 votes respectively. Peggy Burke, 97 votes, and Christina Golly, 83 votes. And that's just for the 3rd, 5th, and 6th ward.
Okay, and we do have for one of the county legislative districts, District 7, it looks like Kip Morrow and James Snyder, the 2 Republicans, are going to win that race. They had 2 opponents on the ballot, but neither of them campaigned actively. That was Anthony Costa and Eric Ferkel. So looks like the Republicans are going to take those 2 seats in District 7. Right now, that's about all we have in terms of results. I would say, keep following Tap into Greater Olean on Twitter, on Facebook. We're going to be following the results. We hope to post stories tonight. But before we go, I just wanted to get from Lane and Cameron a sense of what the atmosphere was like, because each of you were out, at a polling station, talking to voters, talking to workers. Where were you, Lane?
I was at JCC's Cutco Theater in Ward 4, and it was a really great environment there. I got to talk with the people who were running the polls. They commented on how fun it was working the polls and how they liked having fun with the voters who came in. And they also talked about how much they really enjoyed the new electronic system that they were using this year instead of the book that they usually use.
Yeah, it was. I know. I voted at my polling place, and it was, a bit more modern, some technology, which worked. And Kim, where were you today?
I was at the Allegheny Town Court in the town of Allegheny. That was exciting, just to see. That was a very lively place. They had a lot of regulars. One was a history teacher who always, stopped by and would always bring a sample ballot back to his class. He's a retired history teacher at Allegheny Limestone. Things I was hearing while I was there, there were mixed reviews about the new poll pad. Everything was, things changed over this year, especially with early voting, to a more efficient process rather than the large books that you would go and sign your name underneath. Now it was on an iPad, on a poll pad, and for left-handed people, it was a challenge because their palm was hitting
Okay.
was hitting the screen. But otherwise, people did like it. Some of the election clerks that were there working liked it. They felt it was more efficient. So that was an interesting experience to see people who were reacting to that for the first time. But a lot of people I talked to, some of them did not want to give their names, but
Yeah.
a lot of them were very happy to fulfill their civic duty today.
Yeah, and I think it was great that people were out. It was an off-year election, really, other than the Senate districts, which we talked about. No major I mean, every election is important, but no big candidate, big race at the top of the ticket. So it was great that people were out there. I think the overall reviews, at least what I was seeing from people that were tweeting, seemed to like the new iPads and things like that. So maybe, like everything else, folks will get used to them.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up now. Again, I want to thank Cameron Hurst, Lane Dowdell for joining us, giving us some insight on the race. We're happy we were able to give you some results. As I said, the polls have been closed for just over an hour now. We'll continue following the race. As I said, follow Tap Into Greater Olean on Facebook and Twitter, and we hope to have stories posted on most of these races by the end of the evening. So once again, I'm Rich Lee for Tap Into Greater Olean and the Giandoli Institute. Also want to thank the folks at SBU-TV for making this possible on rather short notice. Thank you and have a good night.